What's up guys? Welcome to part 2 of our detailing mini-series on this Mercedes-Benz. Now the other day you saw that we went through the entire wash process starting with the wheels, and we also timed it to show you guys exactly how long it should take to detail a modern mid-size vehicle. Now every vehicle is different, which means that it could take longer, it could be shorter depending on the size of the vehicle and also the level of dirt that you're working with. A car that has a lot of filth on there, a lot of stains, you have to be very careful with it, so that can take you much longer. Also, if you're working on a truck or a large van, that's going to take you longer than say a 4-door sedan would. But now we're moving on to the second part of our mini-series where we're going to be showing you how to clay it and polish it to revive this red finish. And as you can see, the paint has a lot of scratches and swirls and all kinds of staining because the owner doesn't necessarily take care of it. So we're going to remove all that by using our TORQ 15DA with an orange pad and V32, which is going to gently knock down a layer of the clear coat to refine the finish. And then to refine it even further, we're going to use a white pad with our V36 to give it that really deep, lustrous shine. So to get started, I've already taped off half the hood here, or close enough to half, close enough for junior college at least. And now we're going to use a clay bar to remove the impurities that are in the paint, which give it that rough feel and also kind of a rough look. And then that's going to prep it for our polishing step. But to begin, let's grab our medium clay bar and then go to town on this hood. So I've already kneaded up a small piece of the clay bar into a very thin patty. This covers about 3 fingers. And then to start, I have my clay luber, which I'm going to spray on my hand, as well as the clay bar, and then onto the surface. And you want to make sure that it's thoroughly lubricated so that it's not grabbing or dragging on the surface, because that can create marring. It can damage the paint very easily. But as long as it's gliding, it means it's going to be thoroughly cleansing the paint without adding new imperfections. It's okay to be generous with the clay luber because, as I mentioned, you don't want to harm the paint. But as I'm working, it's going to start off kind of rough, or it's going to drag a little bit. But as you pull the junk that's in the pores of the paint out, it'll get smooth, or it'll at least sound smoother, and then the clay bar will just glide across the surface. You can also use a clay block or a clay mitt, or even a clay disc if you have one, but I prefer the clay bar because this conforms to any shape, and it also gets into very tight areas. This way you're thoroughly cleansing the paint. This way you get the best results as you're polishing, and also the best end result. Now you can see all of the junk that's in the clay bar. This is pulling it out of the pores of the paint. All you have to do is simply roll it over and knead it to a new side. This way you're not grinding it back into the finish. But you want to be very careful that you don't drop this, because I've said it before and I will say it again, this is just like a piece of gum. If you drop it, you're going to have to throw it away, which is why I only use a small piece at a time, because if you should drop it, you're not throwing the entire clay bar away, you're just throwing a very small piece. So now the paint feels very smooth, the clay bar glides gently across the surface, and now we're just going to take a clean microfiber towel and wipe off the excess. But just a couple things I want to mention before we move on to that. There's a lot of misconceptions about clay bar where a lot of people think that these actually remove scratches and swirls, when in reality all it does is pull the impurities out of the pores of the paint. The older clay bars used to have a mild abrasive in there that kind of helped to remove some of the impurities, but really all it did was add more scratches. And also people want to know if you can use soapy water or just water by itself to actually lubricate the clay bar, when in reality the clay luber itself has the right kind of chemicals to help it glide safely across the surface, but also it's adding nutrients to the clay bar so it lasts as long as it can. Now most soaps can degrade the actual finish of this, so these will start peeling or tearing apart as you're working, which kind of kills them. So using a proper clay lubricant is the best way to go, and this way you can get the best results, and also you're not going through tons of product. Now let's grab a clean green workhorse microfiber towel. You don't need to wash the surface again, especially if you're going to be polishing. But just simply wipe away the spent product and any of the remaining dirt. The clay bar, the clay luber actually helps to kind of cleanse away most of the dirt. This way you don't have to kind of wash it over again. And now it's simply remove the grime that was in the pores. Like I mentioned, this is prepping it for polishing. Or if you use a light enough clay bar and you polish your car, or basically maintain your vehicle, this is what you need to do before you put on new waxes. This way, again, it's going to bond directly to the bare paint. It's not going to be locking any of the filth, and it's going to help it last as long as it can. So now we'll grab our TORQ 15DA, we'll attach the orange Hex-Logic pad, give it a little bit of the V32, and then we'll get right onto the polishing steps. So as I mentioned, this is our TORQ 15DA, which is the newest installment to the TORQ brand. And obviously the reason why it's called a 15 is because it has a 15mm throw. But what makes this machine so great is it has a more powerful motor, so it's not going to bog down in the curves or the contours of the vehicle. This way you're getting consistent results over the entire surface that you're working on. Now I'm just attaching a 5-inch Hex-Logic pad, which I believe is the perfect combination of cutting power as well as covering enough surface area. And now just using some V32, simply shake up the bottle. And we're going to apply 5 dime-sized drops to our pad, which is about the size of 1 hex. And then I'm also going to spray with some pad conditioner, which helps to moisten the pad, which helps it last as long as possible. But this is also giving the proper work time so that the chemical can thoroughly do its job. Somebody once asked me why I repeat myself a lot. That's because, one, I always hope there's new viewers that are learning how to polish or whatever steps that we're working on for that day. So I repeat myself to one, practice makes perfect, and also for anybody that's new, this is just the proper way to do it. Now working with a dual action, you want to make sure that you put the machine on the surface and then you turn it on. This way you're not flinging compound or polish all over the place. And then also on the lowest speed setting, that's where we're going to give this even coat of polish. And then at our highest speed setting, that's where we're going to do actually cutting. Now you want to make sure that the machine is completely flat. This way it's going to do an even, consistent result. And you want to make sure that you're giving just a very light amount of pressure. Just basically the weight of your hand is all you really need. And you don't want to keep it from tipping too much from one side to the other. This is easy to do on hoods and flat panels, but when you're working on a door or something vertical, typically you'll turn your head and then it'll dive or it'll dip where it'll stall the pad, and then you're not actually cutting, you're not polishing, it's just basically massaging the paint, not really doing anything. So we're going to spread it out, and then on our highest speed setting we'll actually do our paint correction, and then I'll show you guys the before and after. So I've just completed the step using V32 with an orange Hex-Logic pad, and now we need to refine the finish using a white Hex-Logic pad and V36. Now in some cases with cars that have very hard paint, such as most European cars, you can actually finish with a V32 if you know what you're doing. But we want to refine it even further to get some of those light scratches and swirls out, any of the little marring effects that was left behind. That's why we're using the V36. Simply shake up the bottle, and we're going to apply the same amount to the pad, and repeat the same process of spreading it out and then using the highest speed to actually remove the scratches and swirls. As you guys can see, it's a huge transformation from the scratch and swirled side to the now freshly polished side. Now typically after you polish, you want to put some kind of protective coating on there, whether it's ceramic or carbon, or you can skip that and go to an optional step of glaze, which masks any minor swirls and scratches. You want to lock all that shine in there using a sealant and or a wax to help really bring out the shine, but more importantly, it's going to protect the finish, because if you didn't know, white absorbs UV rays in a very poor way, so over time it's going to start to turn pink or it'll oxidize, and then it's just eventually going to fail. But by putting on a sealant or a protective coating is going to help prolong the life of your paint. So now I'm going to take the tape off to show you guys the before and after, and already I can see there's just this beautiful hands down transformation, but now the headlight looks kind of junky. So we're going to set up our TORQ 15 with a green Hex-Logic pad, and then using some Headlight Restorer will bring that headlight back to life, just so overall the car looks better, and also that's going to give it some more clarity, which is also going to be safer, obviously. So let's take that tape off. And as you can see, it's a very dull matte sheen on this side and just a pretty pure glossy side on that end. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% paint correction because the car was scratched pretty heavily, and most of those are pretty deep. Some of it's even actually underneath the paint, so I wonder if it has been repainted in its life. But overall, this is a lot better than it was. You can let go now. And eventually, this car could probably use a heavier compound, maybe even some wet sanding, but overall, I think it looks fantastic. So, like I said, we're going to take the tape off of here, then we need to mask around the area so that we're not repolishing any steps, and we're going to get this headlight looking its best. So now we're moving on to the headlight step, just like I mentioned, using a one-step headlight restorer. Basically, this is a polish that's designed specifically for your optical plastics to remove any kind of faded UV protectants and also the dead plastic. Now again, I'm going to be showing you how to use it with our TORQ 15 DA because a lot of people can either do this by hand or with a rotary, but if you have a 15 DA, you might as well use it. So basically all you're going to do is same thing with any kind of polish, is you want to shake it up and then apply it to the pad. You're going to let the machine do all the work. And since we're working on a very small area, we're only going to be using about 3 dots, but we'll still use some headlight, about 3 dots, but we're still going to use some pad conditioner to again help moisten the pad. This reduces any kind of friction that would normally kill the pad, and it's also giving the proper work time for your polish. We're going to blotch it out. Luckily, we're working on a headlight that doesn't have a whole lot of oxidation on it, and it also doesn't have the alignment nub, so we don't have to fight around that. And they're fairly large, so the 5-inch pad's going to be okay. Now we'll do the same thing. We're going to spread it out, and on the highest speed, we're just going to work it in until basically it's gone translucent or clear, and then we'll wipe it off and check our work. You can see that the TORQ 15 with Headlight Restorer did an amazing job of restoring perfect clarity to these headlights. This is a lot more cost efficient than replacing these headlights because it is a Mercedes and everything's just going to be expensive. So Headlight Restorer essentially removes the dead plastic and the oxidized layer that was on top to give you perfect clarity again. But once you remove that, you want to put some kind of protective coating back on it, which is why we're going to put JetSeal on the headlights as well as the rest of the vehicle after we're done polishing it. So we need to jump on that. And in the meantime, you guys can head over to our website, chemicalguys.com, to check these products for yourself. If you like this video or this car, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And as always, we'll see you guys next time right here in the Detail Garage.